Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty show, and tonight we're going to finish off our little roster construction mini-series with a deep dive into Dynasty Best Ball roster construction. Before that, go ahead and smash the like and subscribe if you haven't already. And a quick reminder, we are going to be going live next Thursday night for the 2024 NFL Draft. We're going to kick things off about an hour earlier, around 6 Central Time, run through the draft, maybe do another extra hour of full frontal rookie analysis for you, and we're just going to have a great time in the Birdhouse. Who knows who will stop in? I'm looking forward to it. But for now, let's get back into some roster construction. And tonight, we're doing Dynasty Best Ball. I just completed a couple of Dynasty Best Ball drafts within the last couple of months. Both of them were 12-team Superflex tight end premium, start 12, 30-man rosters. And so, to get things started off, I want to remind you all that Dynasty Best Ball has no taxi squads, no IRs, so you just have 30-man rosters. You got to deal with the injuries, figure out whether you want to keep them or cut them when they get hurt, and as well as that, you want to keep in mind that you want to limit your zeros on your team, so you don't want to be trying to stash rookies that you're going to plan to use in 3 or 4 years from now. So what that means is limit the rookie tight ends, limit those projects at quarterback. You want scorers. The goal, again, in Dynasty as well as regular fantasy football or redraft is to score points and win your weeks. So, how do we do that? Well, when you're in a startup for Dynasty Best Ball, you really don't need to pile up guys at the beginning, so to speak. What I mean is you don't want to be trading up as much as you'd rather be trading back. In a start 12, you want to be accumulating as many picks as you can before rounds 12, and maybe rounds 12 to 13. If you're starting 12, those should all be startable players in a regular lineup league. Therefore, say you accumulate 14, 15, even 16 guys by rounds 12 or 13, you're going to be ahead of the rest of the game. Now, again, when you're talking best ball, you don't have to pick the lineup. So when you're talking wide receivers, you don't need to be slim and lean at the wide receiver position. Opposed to lineup leagues in best ball, you can say roster those wide receiver 3s and 4s who you definitely don't want in lineup leagues. The Rashid Shaheed, MVS types, the guys who just score, in double digits, only say 5 or 6 times a year. Those guys are actually good to have in best ball. So when we break it down, I like to try and start off by getting at least one elite quarterback, one elite wide receiver, and maybe go hero running back. Now, the hero running back is important because you don't necessarily have to draft one in the first 3 rounds. It's fine getting one in rounds 4 or 5. Heck, it's even fine if you don't draft a running back till round 7 or 8. If you got Saquon as your hero running back, and even though it's Dynasty and he's a little older now, he's still going to dominate touches in Philly for the next couple of seasons. He's totally fine as your hero running back. Again, this is contrary to a lineup league when we're talking running backs and wide receivers. So, again, to go into wide receivers, we want to accumulate probably at least 10 to 12 wide receivers on our 30-man rosters, maybe even more. All depends on what's available at the very end. It's a good idea to stack your wide receivers with your quarterbacks, not necessarily the top wide receivers you have, but especially those wide receivers 3s and 4s. So if you end up with Rashid Shaheed it's good to have Derek Carr as your quarterback 3 or 4. If you have, say, Quez Watkins, I know he was in Philly, now he's in Pittsburgh. Well, he's probably going to be going deep for Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, who knows? But if you grab him in the, round 27, 28, that's fine. It's probably going to be one of those guys that's in your revolving door at the bottom of your roster anyway. But you might get lucky for a couple of weeks before you end up cutting him. Just saying. But, let's say you have Jordan Love, all right? Wouldn't be a bad idea to grab a couple of the Packers wide receivers. They have 4 solid receivers, but it's really hard to gauge which weeks they're going to hit. So for me, I'm avoiding Packers wide receivers in lineup leagues, but at best ball, I'd love to have them because when they do hit, like Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed, they do have big weeks. But when they have bad games, they're only getting 1 catch, maybe not even catching it at all. So it's really hard to gauge certain teams' wide receivers when they're going to score big. And those are the types of volatility that you actually like to have on your Dynasty Best Ball teams. Now, if we move to the quarterback position, I like to roster around 3 to 4 starting quarterbacks. Again, you want to limit your zeros, so you want to limit the amount of backup quarterbacks you have. I really only want to have backup quarterbacks if I absolutely have to. So if one of my starters goes down, sure, then I'll go diving after their backup. But a guy like Justin Fields in Dynasty Best Ball, well, yes, he's great to have if he's starting, but if he's getting you a 0, it's hard to eat that 6th or 7th round pick that you have to use to get him. So Fields was kind of somebody I was avoiding. If he had been cheaper, then maybe I would have taken a look at him. But if I'm talking backup quarterbacks, I'd rather have like Gardner Minshew, who's got at least a 50-50 shot to be the starter in Las Vegas this year. And he does have big games. He likes to sling it around. And so there's going to be weeks where he doesn't score much, but there's definitely weeks in the season coming up where Minshew's going to be slinging it 40 plus times. All right. Now, when we move on to the running backs, again, you want to limit your zeros. I can't emphasize that enough. On a 30-man roster, you probably don't want more than 4 to 5 zeros in any given week. Now, buys, considering maybe you might have a couple more than that. But again, when we get to running backs, opposed to lineup leagues where we want to roster as many as we can on a 53-man roster, we don't want to be doing that in best ball. We don't want to be eating all of these zeros. So somebody like Saquon's backup, well, he eats up all of the touches. Somebody like Eric Gray last season was terrible to own in a best ball league. All right. He wasn't very good in a lineup league either because Saquon wasn't injured too much last season. But I think you understand the gist of it. If you have McCaffrey, don't feel obligated to go out and get Elijah Mitchell. All right. Somebody that's the running backs that are in more of those ambiguous backfields, like say Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears this year. In Denver, you have Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin. I wouldn't mind owning either of those running backs. In fact, I'd prefer to just take the guy who you can draft later on, because if the top guy gets injured, well, then the second guy is probably going to see a little more volume than they normally do. All right. But either way, when they're in those ambiguous backfields, both of them are getting touches every week, meaning both of them are going to at least get some points into your lineup, possibly. So that's, again, avoiding zeros and giving yourself the best chance to get the most points on a week-to-week basis. Now, pass through the running backs and get to tight ends. Tight ends, I'm not so concerned in best ball about getting one of the top 5 difference-making tight ends, all right? I don't have to worry about getting a set-and-forget tight end in best ball. Best ball, I'm fine not drafting a tight end till after round 10 and then just grabbing 3 or 4 trash cans, after round 15. If my tight ends end up being like Dalton Schultz, Tyler Conklin, Jawan Johnson, and Darnell Washington, then fine. One of them is possibly going to catch a touchdown any week. And if they catch a touchdown and have a few more catches, well, that's going to be double-digit points. And that's likely to be competitive even with the top-end tight ends who might be getting 15, 16, 17 points. If I get 12 or 13 points from somebody that I drafted in round 20, well, sign me up, right? So to recap, we want to have about 3 to 4 quarterbacks, 3 to 4 tight ends, 10 to 12 or more wide receivers. Wide receivers, don't be afraid to keep scooping them up. And then about 8 to 10 running backs, again, avoiding those handcuffs that'll continually get you 0 after 0, all right? It's not a matter of just owning any man on a 53-man roster. You prefer to have a wide receiver that's got a shot to go long and catch one bomb and get you 15 points off of one play. All right? So, again, best ball is out there now to have fun. It's only getting more popular as some of us guys who have a ton of lineup leagues already are looking for something more to waste our time in the off season with. And who can't resist another startup draft, right? Plus, the benefit is you don't have to try and set a weekly lineup. So Sunday morning, when you're trying to set all your other teams' lineups in the lineup leagues, you don't have to worry about your best ball lineup. You've already done the work earlier in the week on Tuesday or Wednesday, doing whatever waiver moves you may have had to do. And the only thing you might have to worry about is, picking up a backup starting quarterback or something. So just keep in mind, I can't emphasize it enough, when you're doing Dynasty Best Ball, avoid those zeros. Again, smash the like and subscribe. Don't forget, we're going live next Thursday night for the 2024 NFL Draft in the Birdhouse. It's going to be a great time. Thank you for watching. Have a good night and never stop working.